Scotland's Angus region is home to an ancient fortress built in 1034, a home to nobility for centuries and the birthplace of a queen. Glamis Castle, a place of royalty, of terror, of secrets whispered through stone, from a witch burned at the altar to a deformed heir hidden away, to haunted servants and midnight card games with the devil. Glamis is haunted, but not just by ghosts, by blood and legacy. I'm Jamie Nelson, and this is Ghosts on Tour. Tonight, we enter the haunted halls of Glamis Castle. Welcome to Scotland's royalty and its ghosts. Hi guys! Welcome to another episode of Ghosts on Tour. We're going strong. I don't even know what episode this is, 5, 6 maybe? I'm not sure, but today we're going all the way out of the country. We're going international, baby. International to Scotland. We're going to go to a castle that has a long history, and that comes with many ghosts, like many. This one is definitely very interesting, and I was really loving learning about it while I was doing all of my research. I am specifically pretty interested in like witchy stuff, and this castle does involve some witchy gossip, history. I don't know what you want to call it. Glamis was first recorded in 1034. In 1372, King Robert II granted it to Sir John Lyon, and the Lyon family has lived there ever since. It's the setting of Shakespeare's Macbeth, the birthplace of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, in 1930, and a scene of dark historical drama for nearly 1,000 years. Mortals, nobility, or ghostly presences, they've all walked these halls. In the chapel at Glamis Castle, just beyond the velvet ropes and stained glass windows, there's a particular seat that remains permanently empty. Even during services, even when the chapel is full, because that seat, they say, belongs to a ghost. The Grey Lady of Glamis is believed to be the spirit of Lady Janet Douglas, a noble woman whose tragic death left a mark so deep that her soul may have never left the castle grounds. So her story goes as she was born in 1504 to the powerful Douglas clan, one of the most influential families in Scotland. She became the wife of John Lyon, the 6th Lord Glamis, and by all accounts, their union was one of respect and extremely high status. But when John died in 1528, things took a really dark turn for Lady Janet. This was the era of King James V. He was a monarch, and he was known for absolutely hating the Douglas family, especially his stepfather, Archibald Douglas, the 6th Earl of Angus. King James was so determined to break the family's power, so he began targeting members of the clan, and Lady Janet was unfortunately a very easy mark. In 1537, she was arrested and accused of conspiring to poison the king. This was likely fabricated out of political vengeance, but what is even more horrifying is that she was also accused of witchcraft. And this is a common excuse that was used to justify horrific punishment against women back in the day. Thank the Lord that is not even close to a thing anymore, because what in the actual hell? I can't believe that as women, it's just crazy how much women history has become so different now, and I'm so thankful for it, but it's really, really sad to think about all the things that women had to go through back in the day, even so late as like the 1950s. It's just really weird to think about. Even now, obviously, it still kind of lingers in a way. Sometimes we take 20 steps backwards. Witchcraft is still so demonized in religious cultures, especially in Christianity. Anyways, Lady Janet was imprisoned in Edinburgh Castle for months. And while she awaited trial, her servants were tortured, and her son, who was barely a teenager, was subjected to brutal methods in an attempt to force a confession. She never confessed. But still, her fate was sealed, and on July 17th, 1537, Lady Janet was burned at the stake on Castle Hill in Edinburgh, alive, for crimes she never committed. And her execution was one of the most infamous of the Scottish witch trials, public, painful, and very politically motivated. And that's where the legend begins. They say she returned to Glamis Castle not in vengeance, but in sorrow. And honestly, girl, get your revenge. Today, she's known as the Grey Lady, who's often seen drifting silently through the family chapel, and she's dressed in a gray gown. I wish I could give her a hug. Witnesses have reported seeing her kneeling in prayer, only to disappear if approached. Some claim her presence comes with a sudden chill in the room, and others report the overwhelming feeling of grief washing over them without warning. She's also been seen wandering the corridors, her face veiled in shadow, always quiet and always searching. And then there's that one seat in the chapel that's said to belong to her. No one sits there, not even visiting royalty, and not because of superstition, but because the castle keeps it reserved, just in case she still needs it. Whether she's mourning the injustice of her death or praying for her son or simply unable to move on, the Grey Lady remains one of Glamis Castle's oldest and most tragic spirits. A woman wronged by history whose story refuses to be forgotten. And let's not forget the women that were tortured by men back in the day. Tortured to death. The next ghost that we're going to talk about at the Glamis Castle is Earl Beardy, who laughed at Sabbath and dared the devil to a midnight card game. He vanished, cursed by his wager. Since then, visitors hear dice rolling, cards flipping, and low curses echoing from the clock tower. A staff member once said something was living in the tower, not alive, but not dead either. And then there is the young servant. In a hallway near the Queen's bedroom, a child's apparition sits at the built-in stone bench. No name. There's no accident recorded of this ghost. It's just a small presence watching. And a visitor once sat beside her and felt a chill touch on their shoulder. But no one was there when they looked. There's a very silent horror, not to be facetious. But this story goes that a woman who walks the grounds in daylight, wordless, her lips are blanched, her fingers are pointing at her mouth's lack, which seems to be like a silent plea, asking for help. Sometimes she's seen from the towers looking in, requesting help that she can't voice because she is called the tongueless woman. Folklore suggests that she might be a wronged wife or maybe a servant punished, humiliated, and possibly silenced forever. This specific ghost, called the Monster of Glamis, who is one of the most famous ghosts at this castle, this story particularly interested me because it's honestly just a sad one, but none are quite as settling as this one. There is a secret bricked up room in Glamis Castle, and by all accounts, it should exist, but officially it doesn't. The tale dates back to the 19th century, and it centers on what's become known as the Monster of Glamis. According to local lore, a child was born into the Beausoleil family sometime in the early 1800s, and he was the heir, but the child was said to be hideously deformed. So disfigured, in fact, that the family chose to fake his death and hide him away within the castle walls forever. Some say he lived his entire life in a hidden chamber, tended to in secret and confined to the dark. He was reportedly so large and so inhuman in appearance that servants described him as more beast than boy. Others claimed he lived well into his 80s, never once seen by public. The room he lived in is bricked up and hidden behind centuries-old stone. And in fact, visitors and investigators have tried to count the windows from the outside and match them to the rooms on the inside, but they only find that there are extra windows that open to nowhere, entire corridors that are just a dead end, floors that seem to stretch too long for what's officially on record. Many believe that the monster room as they call it, still exists, and it's just sealed off somewhere in the castle's interior. And the legend doesn't stop there. When the heir to the earldom turns 21, it's said that they're shown the family secret, escorted to the hidden room, and told the truth. What exactly they're shown remains a mystery, which is obviously why they call it the family secret. But one lord was so shaken after being told that he refused to ever speak of it again. One family friend is quoted saying, "If you could even guess the nature of that secret, you would get down on your knees and thank God that it wasn't yours." I just find that so sad. And I think that, I mean, I don't get where they're coming from at all, but I can understand that obviously with royalty comes expectations, I guess, or just their certain way of thinking is just so different. And I guess that's what ended up making them want to keep this child a secret. There are more shadows here, full-bodied apparitions on staircases, sudden cold spots where nothing alive stands, whispers in empty room doorways, footsteps when there should be none. It's tied to Macbeth. People say the land itself is haunted by his blood, echoing through generations. Now I want to get into some first-person accounts in this castle. A person posted on Reddit their encounter in the Glamis Castle. The title is First Time Seeing Ghosts of Glamis Castle. One of my favorite ghosts encounters of all time was at Glamis Castle in Scotland. It is said to be one of the most haunted castles in Scotland. I was traveling with a friend at the time. She was afraid of ghosts and told me to not tell her if I see any for our whole entire trip. The tour starts with the guide opening the door to the dining area. I saw a beautiful lady dressed in older clothing. She was a white translucid. She looked up and when she saw the group, left the room to the left, right through the wall. I immediately looked around, but no one else in our group was reacting. No one was surprised or curious. I thought it was a hologram before I saw no reaction. I was even more curious because where that ghost disappeared, it was just a wall. I was listening to the guide and just waiting for the right opportunity to ask a question. Finally, I could ask the guide. This area, pointed an invisible rectangle door on the wall, was there something here before? He seemed surprised but said, "There used to be a door there. It was where the servants would pass to get the food from the kitchen." And I was actually shocked. I did not expect that answer. My friend was curious but didn't ask anything for fear of the reply, maybe. We continued on the tour, and the guide mentioned a little boy, Ghost, who was tripping people, but I did not see him. We then go in the chapel, and I sat in first row. The guide then says, "There's a ghost that sometimes haunts the chapel and usually sits in the back right corner." No one in our group sat even close to that corner. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. I did not see her. Then we moved to another room. It looks like a library. There's a pool table, but what struck me was the man on the other side of the room. He was dressed in more recent clothing, slightly translucent, and he was smoking inside a castle. He was amused by us, and again, no one was reacting to this smoker. I started watching what other people were doing, and within a range of 3 meters, not one approached him. I was trying to not look at him too much because I didn't want him to know that I could see him. I was fascinated by how he was reacting to us. At some point, I thought I was going crazy, so I asked my friend if she could also smell cigars. She said yes. The guide overheard me and said, "This used to be the men's room, where they would go after supper to just smoke, play, and drink. But it's not been used for over a decade now, and it's weird. I never smelled cigars before." Clearly, that ghost did not see the non-smoking poster. Anyway, I was relieved that other people could also smell it. It just reinforced what I was seeing. So that was my experience, and to this day, it's still my favorite. After I meet a ghost, I always wonder, what if I said this or did this, but I'm always too scared to in the moment? Maybe one day. I always wonder, I wonder if people, only the people that believe, like kind of how in like the Polar Express, if you believe in Santa, you can hear the bells. Like, if you believe in ghosts, does that make you more susceptible to seeing them? Because if you don't want to see them, or maybe if you're scared to see them and you're like blocking them out mentally or subconsciously, does that make you not able to see them? Because it's always interesting to me how sometimes one person, like in this case, this person saw the ghost and no one else in their group did. Or maybe there were other people that saw but just didn't want to say anything. I don't understand that, because I'd be like, oh my God, guys, look. And then there, people would be like, wait, what? There's nothing over there. I'd be like, really? Okay, one of the comments says, the initial ghost sounds like Lady Janet Douglas. She was burned as a witch at Edinburgh Castle. It was a trumped up charge because James V hated the whole Douglas clan. She was meant to be very beautiful, and your description matches what I've read about her. And maybe that is the case. Maybe he really did see the witch that was burned at the stake, but also wasn't actually a witch. I don't know. I wonder if she actually did practice witchcraft, or if that was just something that King James V just pulled out of his asshole. I wouldn't be surprised. The Glamis Castle today is a working castle and open to tours, special events, and even weddings. It doesn't advertise ghosts, but it doesn't hide them either. This is very different to our last episode in Eureka Springs, where they are very out there about the fact that this is a haunted hotel and they give ghost tours specifically. There are midnight ghost hunts by lantern tours. The family keeps silent, but tell anyone local and they'll share the unexplained happenings nonetheless. Well, usually the, royal families are usually they're pretty good secret keepers, I fear. From witches to devils, monsters to silent souls, Glamis is a labyrinth of legacy and lament. Next time on Ghosts on Tour, we're heading back across the Atlantic, and this time to California's Queen of the Pacific, where spirits roam the decks, children laugh in empty halls, and a once majestic ocean liner now rests forever. We're checking into the Queen Mary, docked in Long Beach, once a luxury cruise ship turned World War II troop carrier, and now one of the most haunted hotels in the United States. The Queen Mary is home to countless chilling tales, including a mysterious young girl by the pool, a doomed crewman in the engine room, and cabin doors that slam shut on their own. So, pack your sea legs and maybe a flashlight. Until then, sleep tight, and if you hear knocking on your hotel door room tonight, don't open it. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode of terror, if you ask me. Let me know what your favorite episode so far has been. I always love to hear your suggestions as well in the comments. I'm needing to get to a couple that people have suggested, and I think that they would be really good stories. But yeah, let me know if you ever have, or if you have anything like close to your family that you think maybe they've stayed in a haunted hotel. Or I think I got one comment about someone's grandpa owning a haunted hotel, and I looked it up and it seemed really interesting. So I'll probably end up doing that at some point. I think it was in New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. But I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Love you guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, then YouTube says that you might like this one. Okay, love you. Bye.